Hello and welcome to the New York Roadrunners Coaches Chat. I am Coach Annick and I am joined by my venerable co-host, Coach Ben Delaney. Hi, Ben. How's it going?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today, Annick?
I'm doing well, Coach Ben. I'm really happy to be here with you this lunch hour on the East Coast because we are talking about really important topics to get our runners ready for the 14 weeks out from the TCS New York City Marathon, right? And so if you are training for the first Sunday in November, the TCS New York City Marathon, you're 14 weeks into your training plan. So we're talking about all the things you need to know in week 14. And as always, this chat is for you, the runners. We are here to answer any questions you have. We're here to give advice, guidance. Ben and I have been coaches for many, many years, and we love to train runners and we love to support them. So while we have a beautiful, all sorts of great information to share today, we are always willing to throw that completely overboard in service of you, our runners. So in the chat, you can always ask questions, you can throw comments, shout outs. But the very first thing that Coach Ben and I want to know is how are you feeling about your week 14 training? How's it going for you in week 14? Are you excited because you just got your plan and you're going to start training for the marathon? Are you nervous? Are you injured? Are you anxious? So drop in the chat how you're feeling. We want to get a sense of the folks in the room as they get ready for New York City Marathon. So Coach Ben, it's week 14 in New York City, 14 weeks out. What should runners be thinking about during this time?
They should just be focused on the now. Be comfortable. Don't worry about what's coming down the road. Tendency runners love to look down the road at what's coming. I always tell runners, focus on the now. Focus on what's coming next, especially at this stage of training because there's so much time left. Don't psych yourself out thinking you've got this run or that run and next week's or Y weeks. Focus on this week. Focus on the workouts in front of you because right now hopefully you should still be feeling very good, somewhat fresh. We want to continue to feel that way. So really just focus on where you are today. I think it's key just to kind of stay in the moment because you still have a lot of weeks. 14 weeks sounds like a lot, but I think as Coach Annick can attest, 14 weeks will definitely go by fast.
Yeah, no, I love this idea and I want to elevate it and just sort of just hold it out a little bit more because, for me as a coach, it's helping runners find emotional neutral. We are so excited, and I'm seeing it come in the chat. People are excited, they're nervous, they're anxious. It's a whole cornucopia of feelings. And that's super common, right? You could feel excited one week, anxious the next week, nervous the third week. The training plan is a roller coaster of emotions. You're physically more tired as you start to increase volume and load in your training, and mood does play a part as you fatigue, right? And so as coaches, what we really want our runners to do is to sort of note these emotions as they come up. You don't have to try and suppress them, but try and find a little bit of emotional neutral. Know that the highs will be high and they'll probably be followed by a low as well. Coach Ben, what else should our runners really be thinking about in this week 14 training cycle period?
I think they should be using how they can use the word cornucopia more often in their vocabulary. I'm trying to figure out how I can use that. Was a fantastic one. I was like,
I actually got that from
again later
there was
today.
A runner. Cornucopia. There was a runner who used to describe everything as a cornucopia of whatever. And so AJ Acosta, that word is yours. So, but I digress. Tell me more of it, Coach Ben.
I tell you, runners out there today, that is your goal. Whatever your long run, whatever your short run, whatever run you have, try to work in a cornucopia somehow into that, and then you have really unlocked Wednesday. I'm just going to put it out there for everybody. Definitely, if you haven't picked a plan yet, I would definitely look at probably picking a plan. For runners out there who maybe still be looking around, trying to figure out where they are. If you haven't decided on where your plan is 14 weeks out, definitely jump in. Coaching lab by Run Coach that we offer here through New York Roadrunners, I think is a fantastic option. Everyone has a coach. They will help and guide you through that. They'll give you tips every single day. So if you haven't picked a plan yet, I think picking a plan would be a good place to start. But yeah, again, if you're already in your plan, like Annick and I talked about, stay in the moment. Keep it kind of cool. I mean, right now you got a ways to go. We'll go by slow. It will go by quick, but drive it down into neutral as much as you can and enjoy the ride because it is a fantastic journey to be on.
Yeah, and I think that's such a thing that's so important is that if you have a plan, it can help mitigate some of that anxiety, because the decisions are made, right? And so you have hopefully either working through a coach or come to New York Roadrunners. We have amazing training in our Coaching Lab app. So you can go onto our website and you can search Coaching Lab and you can learn about our app, which has training as well. And one of the things that happens during a marathon cycle is you have decision fatigue if you don't have a training plan. And so a training plan actually is a map. You are a hero on a Dungeons and Dragons quest. I'm just trying to build you a metaphor here. And if you don't have a map of where you're going, it is a really weird quest that you're about to go on. There's too many decisions to make. It is overwhelming and you have a lot of decision fatigue, which is anxiety producing. But when you have a map on this Dungeons and Dragons quest, which I've just put you on, also known as marathon training, it helps reduce anxiety. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You can say, here's how I'm feeling. Here's what's prescribed for me today. And here's what I think I can do with that. And it'll help actually build your whole plan. And so if you are finding that you have anxiety and you don't have a training plan, one really easy way to mitigate that is by getting support from coaches who build these training plans for you to be physiologically ready on race day to perform at your best. And so that's really what's cool about having a training plan. So if you don't have one, check out New York Roadrunners Coaching Lab. We've got them and we love making them individualized to your running needs. Coach Ben, I also love testing out gear during this time. This is one of my favorite windows to make sure that I've got the right gear for race day. So for me, that means getting the right shoes, making sure I've got like the right shirt that I probably want to wear on race day, making sure that I've got the shorts that don't chafe. I mean, it's like a little bit of a reason to go make sure that I've got. Sometimes I know from previous cycles that I know exactly what I'm going to wear, but it definitely is a time to check in on shoes. Wouldn't you agree?
Shoes especially, and nothing says chafing. Nothing that says marathon training like a good chafing on a long run. That's something you never forget, and you never make that same mistake twice. I mean, you make it once, you go, yeah, that shower I was looking forward to that post run didn't quite feel so invigorating when half of your skin is rubbed off the inside of your legs or other parts of your body. So yeah, this is the time to look at gear. And I think shoes are so important. I was so excited when I saw the New Balance, they were using the Prisms for the marathon shoe. I actually used that shoe in training. I started wearing it about a year ago because I was looking for a different shoe. I've been wearing the same manufacturer, same brand for a while. And I was looking for, let me find a lighter weight shoe. And I stumbled across the New Balance Prisms and I love them. So when I saw those shoes come out this year as part of our marathon shoe for the 50th TCS New York City Marathon, I was beaming. I have an order in. I'm on vacation right now. I think I have a little care package for myself waiting for when I get home. But think about that. Think about the shoes you want to wear come November or on race day. As again, you always want to train in the gear you want to race in. I'm the kind of runner that will go head to toe. I mean, I'm the kind of person that if I'm looking at the weather in November is going to be a certain degree, if I can wear certain clothing, shorts, shirt, socks, shoes, I will wear literally the same thing every single time I go out for my long run. I really look at that long run as a dress rehearsal for what I'm going to wear. I think the shoes and the socks are so key because, as we always say, you try something new on race day. Oh, what's a new pair of shoes going to do? Or they only have 5 miles instead of 50 miles on them. And all of a sudden you get somewhere on 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. That little spot on the bottom of your foot begins to get a little warmer. By the time you get to the Queensboro, it's a blister. And it can really make for a tough day. So, sticking with the clothes you want to wear is key. And even on top of that, nutrition, what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink is another key component out there. And I think Annick has some great information she's done, lots of training. So what's some ideas and tips on training, on testing your nutrition at this point that the runners can do?
Yeah. The number one tip is that what works for your best friend or the Olympians will maybe work for you, but maybe not. You really should find your own fuel and your own fuel style, right? And so we really highly recommend that when you do a marathon, you do take in glucose and you have fuel in the form of, they come in all sorts of forms. They come in waffles, they come in gels, they come in little chewy gummies. I always say this, but we talked to the Achilles Mongolia runners during their marathon, and they had like a really awesome salty soup broth, which I still really want to try. But when they were doing their virtual marathon, and so fuel, in terms of glucose, in terms of sugars, they can come in many, many forms. And you have to find the brand, you have to find the volume and the frequency that works for you. And so every product has a slightly different prescription volume, right? So one brand might say, take it 45 minutes, and one brand might say, take it 50 minutes in and with water. But what you really want to do is have a plan. And the best way to develop that plan is by practicing on the long run. And what you're basically trying to do is that when your muscles are using all the glucose in your body, all your sugars are being broken down, and you start to hit empty, this fuel that you have gone out and practiced with will come in on race day, and it'll have a fuel for your body to burn. That's why we call it fuel. We could call it snacks. We could call it, I don't know, like fun, tasty delights, but it's very common and it's a little confusing, but we call it fuel because it actually fuels your run. It's super vital. And the longer you're out there, the more fuel you're going to have to take because your body's physically covering more time. So for example, a 2-hour marathoner is going to have to fuel for 2 hours, and they might only have to have a few packets of something with them, 1 or 2 packets of a tasty fuel, whatever works for them. If you're out there for 4 or 5 hours, just know you're going to have that much more with you. And so that's why it's super important to practice on the long run. Are they going to go in your shorts? Are you going to pin them inside the waistband? How are you going to actually physically carry the fuel you need to be successful on race day? And so this is why the long run is so important. It allows you to practice and find out actually what sits in your stomach and what feels really good for you to digest. I love talking about fuel, and I love talking about what our bodies do in training. I really get super jazzed about like blood flow during exercise. But the point is you have to practice and you have to figure it out. Now, 14 weeks out is a fantastic time to start practicing because you can have things that don't taste right to you or don't feel good after 20 miles, and you can start to get a sense of what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you.
Absolutely, man. I've tried so many different things. I think we've all tried everything out there on our run. I've tried 4 or 5 different things. I even tried pretzels one time. It became a paste in my mouth without water. But again, I think Annick pointed out, try everything. Nothing's wrong at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Coach Ben, tell us a little bit about, all right, so we've got the gear, we've got our fuel that we're going to demo. Tell us a little bit about like where we should be running 14 weeks out. What should some of these courses look like for us?
Yeah, again, this is like, if you're in New York City, the beauty of being in the New York City, the tri-state areas is the home course advantage. That's what I always call it. And I really encourage runners to get out there on our marathon course, run through 4th Avenue in Brooklyn, get up into Long Island City, do the Queensboro Bridge, do it so it becomes so normal and so, I don't use the word easy, but you understand what's coming up and down to get used to that. Run on 1st Avenue. Get up into the Bronx, do the little 5th Avenue section from 110th to 90th that everyone goes, why did they put a little uphill at mile 23? Because we love you. That's why it's there, really. But that's what we're doing. Get into the park. The finish is actually a little bit uphill. Don't want to give any spoilers away for people out there who haven't done this yet, but it is a little bit uphill. So if you're in the New York City area, I say get out there on our race course, try it out, sample it out. It's the best thing you can do. If you don't live here, look at the elevation profiles of the course. The first 13 miles of our race, outside of going up and over the Verrazano Narrows at the beginning, is pretty flat. So you've got a nice 10-mile stretch. You can just kind of cruise. Then you have the Queensboro Bridge. So if you live in an area that has bridges or small hills, up and downs, just do those somewhere within your long runs to get your legs used to having to switch gears up and down a little bit. But look at where you are. And again, if you are here, it's a good sample. Any tips out there for runners who maybe not in our tri-state area, Annick, for what they may be able to try?
Yeah, I love that you low-key acted like the hill at the end of the race was like a secret. You were like, don't wanna blow the secret. The course is rolling at points. The Verrazano right out the gate is a beautiful, wonderful hill. The Verrazano Bridge is a massive bridge that spans from Staten Island into southern Brooklyn. And it is long and it is a slow climb. Now, the good thing is it comes right early in the, first, second mile of the race. But the course does have some bridges and it does have some hills. And especially, that end of Central Park, you do want to be comfortable practicing. So if you can't be with us in the tri-state area, really try and find courses that, runs, roads, paths that are slightly undulating. We're going to go with the word undulating now, in that they go up and down. And so you have some practice in some climbing. This is not the Alps. You are not going to have to break out your mountaineer gear, but you are going to definitely be coming, south of the park. You're going to be at mile 26. You're going to turn and you're going to see a little climb, and you just want to be prepared emotionally for that climb and for some of the hills and bridges throughout the race course. Now, Coach Ben, I want to get into it because we've got a bunch of folks here. So I'm going to share how folks are feeling. about our question about week 14, and just get a sense of where folks are. All right, so we have got Earl saying, good afternoon, excited here in Queens. We like excited. We always go with excited. Edgar says, hello, coaches from East Harlem, New York City. Hi. I like this one from Erica. Nervous, anxious, terrified, self-doubt creeping in. I love it. It's super honest, and naming your feelings and emotions is super powerful. And then figuring out, do you just sit with that emotion? Do you capture it? Do you try and mitigate it by doing some self-care techniques? Do you just journal it out? How do you actually deal with what you're feeling? Supernatural nervous to be feeling that way at this point in your training. So you are with a lot of people when you're feeling that way. Jeffrey's feeling pretty good while feeling stronger. So all sorts of really cool stuff. Mercedes is shout out from New York's Queens. Long runs are going great. We always love to hear long runs are going great. Trying to stay focused on runs and Erla on a weekly basis to not throw myself off with longer runs are to come. Mercedes, I love this. Coach Ben was just talking about this, like saving a little bit in the tank emotionally because you got a lot more training to go. So I think that's just such a wise thing to do, doing a lot of stretches and listening to my body. Listening to your body should be like runners. We should just get that tattooed on our heads or something. Listen to your body. Christine says anxious but excited for longer runs that are coming up. Yeah, you and me both. Looking forward to exploring my neighborhood on the long runs and sending lots of love from Oakland, California. Hi, Coach Ben. Very popular Coach Ben. Vince says hello from France. Hope borders will open soon. You and me too, Vince. I want to go back to France. Joan says greetings from Ireland. Louise says hello from Rio de Janeiro. Y'all, I love our international runners who tune into this. It always makes my day to hear where folks are tuning in from. Wendy from Belgium. Roberto from Connecticut. Yasi from Club Run to Rise. Good to see everyone. Francisco, big hi from Spain. And then Steve says, hi, coaches, just finished 5 miles in New Jersey and getting ready for a half marathon in October. Good luck to all those running the New York City Marathon. And thanks so much, runners. We're so happy to hear from you all. We've got some questions, and I'd love to, as I said, the point was to answer your questions. So Coach Ben, I'm going to throw some questions your way. How about that? Okay. Here we go.
Let's go. Rapid fire. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Here we go. Number 1 is from Erica. And Erica wants to know, should we be rotating shoes throughout the week? Go.
Yeah, that's always something one of us ask, and it's not a bad thing. You don't have to. If you only have one pair, go with the one pair. We always just at this time of year, if you're out there and you sweat a lot, maybe you want to take your insoles out and shove some newsprint in there so they get nice and dry. But if you can rotate through 2 pairs of shoes, it always, you have one maybe for your speed workout, one for easy run and your long runs. That way the shoes stay fresher for longer. The shoes have a chance to dry out, and the foam and the all the good stuff in the bottom has a chance to come back to life, so they last a little bit longer.
All right, I've got another one for you, Coach Ben. This is from Sydney. How many runs a week? Here we go. How many runs a week should I reasonably replace with Peloton rides? This is a great question. It's about cross-training and integrating cross-training. Obviously not the long run, but what about weekly mileage? Would 2 out of 4 days be too much? I'm interpreting the 2/4 as 2 out of 4 be too much. So Ben, what are your thoughts and feelings about integrating Peloton ride, which is cardiovascular exercise, with runs?
Yeah, that's always a tricky one because with marathon training, it's about time on your feet. Because again, marathon, you're going to be out there for a long time. And additionally, you need to get those miles in. And secondly, you're going to be doing harder workouts. Sometimes your speed work in the marathons may be a bit longer, a bit more volume, a bit longer. So those Peloton workouts, they can almost, I wouldn't say fully replace the speed workout, but they can be intense enough where you need your body to have time to recover. So 2 to 4 days, I would lean more towards the lower side. I know people like to balance things out. Cross-training, we're big proponents of cross-training. Just make sure that when you're doing those cross-training exercises and the elements, you're not doing them so much that they in turn, when you get to a speed workout, whether it be a tempo or interval, especially your long runs, that you aren't so taxed, so tired that it makes that workout tougher because you want to have time to recover between all of that. Make sure you're feeling correctly. So just be mindful of that. And as Coach Annick said earlier, listen to your body. I think we should get a listen to your body 15 miler set up sometime. It'd be a great run, and it'd be a good talking point for a lot of our runners.
No, I think that's just so smart, right? So when you take a class, whether it's like bar or yoga or it's a Peloton class, it'll often be high in intensity, right? Because the purpose of that exercise is to get your heart rate up, and it can put you, a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is standing still, 10 is Usain Bolt sprinting. It can put you around a 7 or an 8. Like, it can pretty fatigue you. They have you, standing up on the pedals and really riding really hard bar. They love to torture me when I take bar classes. They know how to make me hurt. And the point is that if you add 2 or 3 of those hard sessions to your workouts, and then you do a long run, you can look at your plan and have nothing but hard sessions. And so your runs are supposed to be at, on the scale of 1 to 10, like a 4 or 5. So to Ben's point, if you're doing a bike ride and it's a 4 or 5, fantastic. Swap it out if that feels good for you. Just be careful when it becomes a big workout, because then you'll find you have nothing but hard efforts. It's super great question. All right. I'm going to take one of the questions, Coach Ben. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah. Go for it. There's a great one in here.
I know. Chloe says, hello from the Upper West Side, first-time marathoner. Yes, so nervous but excited. Best advice for combating self-doubt. I love this question because self-doubt is so common. It is like a runner's best friend. If you're watching the Olympics, you can actually see it in some of the eyes of the runners. They are nervous as heck. And they have self-doubt, right? So self-doubt occurs on whether it's a first-time marathoner or whether you are really chasing down an Olympic gold medal. Self-doubt is a friend of runners and all athletes. And so you have to have some tangible ways to fight back. And one of the ways you can do that is actually by looking at your training, writing down your training, and really keeping a close watch over it. So you might track it. You might also have a journal that goes alongside it. And you can actually review all the training you're doing to be prepared. So it's sometimes just not enough to do the training. Sometimes actually looking back and saying, wow, I've really been doing a lot of training. I've really been putting in the miles and the minutes. I've been working hard. And even if you skip a run here or there, that really doesn't matter in the long run. It's just the volume of work you're doing and recognizing that. Other ways you can combat self-doubt are by having mantras. Not just like a silly thing to do. Like, mantras have a lot of power. And you can actually do a little rewiring in your brain. If you say, okay, I'm having these feelings of self-doubt, a mantra like, I'm ready to do this, and you repeat it every time the self-doubt comes in, you can actually start to feel better and really just trigger it. So the self-doubt comes, you have your mantra, and it goes right back out the door. I was looking at an article about our fantastic discus thrower, American woman who won gold, and she had a lot of self-doubt, and her coach used the power of mantras leading into the Olympic Games, and she got gold. So Valerie was able to use mantras to really push back against self-doubt, and her mantras were very simple. It was like, I can do this, I'm ready to go. And so I would say, really look at your training and find some mantras and really integrate them, so when you start to have the self-doubt, you can push back. So any coaching tips from you, Coach Ben, about
Yeah, so just to echo the mantra, in 2018, I ran with a good friend of mine. We ran a lot of our training runs together, and we actually used the mantra. Actually, it was a song by Justin Timberlake called Let the Groove Get In. And that was our mantra. That was our long run. And that really became synonymous with everything that we did. Is all of our runs, we let the groove get in, whatever the groove was. And it was just kind of settling into this groove, because really what your marathon training is about, it's a groove. It's not like, I got to finish this run this fast or this hard. There are certain workouts where, yeah, you're doing your speed, but your long runs are all about the groove. Just kind of get the legs rolling, because really you're going to be out there for a while, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever the case may be. You're just rolling the legs over. So we always did let the groove get in, and we always would play that song when we first started. And that's what we used over and over again. So I mean, I think the idea of mantras is spot on for any runner. I don't care if you're a first timer, a 10 timer, however many times you've done this before. Find something that really connects with you inside, that you can rely on, that you're going to need, because you may need to bring up that mantra somewhere between mile 1 and 26, maybe a few times, depending on how your day is going, and being able to have connection with that and feel that really, I won't say make or break, but can get you through the rough patches that may be coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, no, I think that's super on point. Coach Ben, I have another question for you, if you're ready for it. I know you're the man with the answer on this one. Here we go. I found it. Earl asks, will there be hydration stations as usual during marathon? And the second question is, are there pacer runners in the marathon?
Great questions. So happy. So many rubber runners. I do with our group trainers out there in the parks, and they're always asking these questions, because again, this marathon, we're trying to get to look like as much as we have in years past. Yes, there will be hydration on course. Don't worry about that. They're still finalizing a few things. So is it going to be every single mile like we've had in years past? I still think they're trying to assess where things may or may not be. So keep the eye out for any adjustments to that, but there will be usual hydration on course. I do not think there's going to be the banana station we usually have on First Avenue. So again, as Annick alluded to earlier, when you're training during your long runs, practicing your fuel, keep in mind that you should probably bring all of your gels with you. There'll be water and there'll be sport drink on the course, but there will definitely, there may be a few less stations than in years past. So just keep an eye out for that, but there will be hydration on course. The pacers, I don't know if Steve has given this information out yet. I don't know if we had him last time he was on, but yes, we will have our pace team in the corrals on the course. Coach Steve has been working hard behind the scenes to get our pace team back on board. Pacers are so excited to be out there. I was lucky enough to work with them in 2019. They're a fantastic group. I love all those pacers. They give so much of themselves for our runners, for our running community, and so excited to have them back out there. Pacers will range again from around that low 3 hour upwards to that 6 hour range. So they'll be out there, they'll be in the corrals. So if you're training out there, you're trying to hit one of those bigger numbers, 330, 345, 420, 445, whatever, look for those runners with the poles and the little signs up in the per pace, and they will guide you as they always do from start to finish and achieving your goals.
Yeah, I love it. I'm super excited that certain elements where we were able to bring back. And so that's just so helpful to have somebody who's like a metronome and is really able to hit that pace time. I'm going to do some shout outs. We want to say hello to our runners listening from Minnesota and Macedonia. I love that combination of runners all across the world. I've got two questions I'm going to answer here. Alvaro asks, can we pick up bibs for the Bronx 10 miler? Not until the week of the race. And so check out the New Balance Bronx 10 miler page for all of the information. Every race has different pickup window times, and it's the week before the race you can get your bib and get ready to go. So if you go to the race page, it'll tell you more information about when the bib will be available and when you can get ready for your race. Good luck with that one. And then also asked, are you going to mail the Brooklyn half medals? And so if you're missing a medal, something has happened, so many virtual races this past year, and you have a personal question about something that needs to show up somewhere for you, email help@nyrr.org. Once again, that's help@nyrr.org, and they can look into your account and they can give you all the information about where the items that you need are. And so, yeah, that's always a great email to have in the back of your pocket. All right, here's one that we're going to tackle because I love this question, Coach Ben. Okay, so Dan asks, how much rest should I get if my legs hurt, quads and hamstrings after my long runs? Is 3 days too long, or is a short, slow run better to loosen up the legs? All right, so Dan asks, how much rest should I give my legs after a long run? What are your
Yeah, I'm going to give my thoughts, and I would love for you to give some additional thoughts on this as well, Annick, because it is definitely one of those things where, there is soreness and then there's pain, and you have to, it's kind of like you have to figure out which one that can be sometimes, because if it's pain, like something is not right, definitely give yourself rest. If you're sore, but I think if you're sore at this stage of your marathon training, you should still somewhat feel fresh. A little extra rest will go a long way. So if you come off your long run Saturday or Sunday and you get up on Monday and your legs are sore and you get up for Tuesday and you maybe have a quick speed workout or a shakeout run, your legs still feel sore, I would say at this stage of training, extra days of rest will go a lot longer. That way you stay fresh. Because if you begin to do more work now and you burn out a little bit more, by the time you get to mid-September, really the meat and potatoes part of the training, or the quinoa and kale, if you don't eat meat, you want to make sure that you're as fresh as you can be at that point of your training. So again, listen to the body is key on this one, but I would recommend extra rest. If that kind of stuff persists, you may want to look at a few things, or it could be some strength issues. If you're in touch with, if you have done PT in the past, maybe reach out to a PT. But again, I tend to lean more on the cautious side because again, we're still at 14 weeks out, so a lot of time to get the miles in. But Annick, do you have any other ideas, thoughts, feelings about what these runners may be looking into at this point?
Yeah, it actually makes me think of what I did on Monday. No, last Monday. Here we go. 2 Mondays ago. I started lifting weights again, right? And so this is something I hadn't been doing. This is akin to a runner who starts doing long runs again, right? You've used a body part, a muscle group that you haven't used in a while. And it fatigues. You actually have some very gentle muscle damage, and you need to give some time for recovery. And to Ben's point, for many runners, it's very common. You're sort of doing like a little achy walk around the house. A light run can sometimes help with that. Actually getting your muscles to move again can give you a moment of relief. It can get blood to the areas for repair, and it can actually help it feel good. We're talking really light and easy here, like 2 miles jog. But what Ben is doing an excellent job against, cautioning against, is that sometimes it means more. So if you're continually, and the idea is the pattern here, if you're continually in pain, and the pain is not just like a gentle ache, like, ooh, I think I worked out so much. If it's like, this is really concerning, this really hurts, that's when you want to connect with a physical therapist, a primary care physician, and you want to be like, what is actually happening here? That's the point that a 2 mile shakeout easy jog would not help. So, after a long run, we always say care for your body, walk, jog very easily, take days off. That's great. But do listen, is the pain easy and gentle and can go away real quick, or is the pain really, really lingering? And that's when you want to get your crew to answer your call and really get some support on that. All right. A couple more questions. I love the questions, y'all. Like, thank you. This is like my favorite part of the show. Like, Ben and I love questions. We are happy to like pontificate about the value of, whatever it is that we, I love recovery, and I do want to talk a little bit more about recovery. But we really want to answer your questions. So this is like my favorite part of the whole show. So we have a question about, are we running with masks? So at this moment, masks are not required, but we can't predict the nature of what is happening with the pandemic right now. It is day by day changing. And so while at this moment, they are not required, that can absolutely change in the future. And so I just want to say, take that with a grain of salt, that what happens today might not be the same thing down the road, but all we can do is tell you what's happening today in New York City for us. All right, here we go. Chloe question. Hi again. I love Chloe's questions. Hi again. Can you please discuss New York Road NYRR long runs on Saturday mornings? Do you have to be enrolled in GT to participate? Coach Ben, tell us a little bit about this long run. What is it, and how can we help this runner?
Our long runs. This is a special group. I love our weekend long runs. I was a runner. I've been a coach. Really enjoy this. And I really encourage runners who live in the New York City area, if you can make it happen, definitely sign up, register for our weekend long runs. Our current session, we sold out, is a very popular offering that we do have. So the current session we have for our weekend long runs on Saturday is sold out for these current 8 weeks. We just wrapped up week 2 this past weekend. The next session will open up, I believe, August 24th, I think our next registration will open up for that. So what we do is every Saturday, there's a group of runners, anywhere between 50 and 60 runners who are registered, and for this offering, we meet at varying locations throughout the 5 boroughs. Typically, at this time, we're trying to meet more on the marathon course. We talked about, getting out, using our home course advantage, and it's a coach-led run. What does that mean? Our coaches, our NYRR coaches, are out there with you on the run. They talk about fueling, they talk about strategy, they talk about pacing, they talk about equipment, shoes. So a lot of stuff that we've touched on here today, our coaches bring that to the run. Because again, your long run should be at a conversational pace. So you should be able to have these conversations, talk with your coaches, talk with your fellow runners while you're out there. So anybody out there who may be watching this either live or maybe later today when you get back off of work, if you're interested in our weekend long runs, the next session, I believe we have it up on the site August 31st, but I think we may be opening up a week earlier, so it could be August 24th. Keep an eye out on our social media as well as a website for that. But it's a great tool to get information, but also get your long run in. That way you're with a group of people to push to get you through that. Because again, if you're out there for either, for so many miles or so many, so much time on your feet, we run most things by time on our feet. So we're running by minutes. It's always good to have a group of friends, not only for the run, but after the run, you can debrief, go get a cup of coffee, get brunch. But definitely look out for that towards the end of this month, and hopefully we'll see you in September.
Yeah, that's, sometimes having companion to run with you is really, really great. And so do keep an eye out for that next class offerings that are going to be opening up soon. All right, Carmen asks, would Goji Berries work for fuel? And what I just want to say about this is that, what you're really looking for is you're looking for glucose. You're looking for sugars. That is what your body burns during this phase of training when you're going this longer distance. That's what your body needs. And so goji berries are awesome. Just they're sort of referred to as like a superfood. I think they live long. They're next door neighbors with kale. They have a lot of antioxidants to them. Things like antioxidants are not fuel in the mid-race. So while goji berries might be, I actually don't have like a package in front of me, so I can't tell you how much glucose and sugar they have in them. The big reason to have these goji berries that folks talk about is because the antioxidant component, which is something that helps in recovery. It's something that helps before, but you want to try them. So if you are like a goji berry fanatic and you love them and they work for you, that's wonderful, but you definitely have to try them out. But the antioxidant component might not help mid-race, which is what you really need. You need some mid-race fuel to keep you going. So try them, and they might be part of a couple of things you use. So that's your answer for that, Carmen. Jay has been waiting so patiently. So we are going to get to Jay from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I always sing when it's a Pennsylvania city because I used to live in Pennsylvania and I love Pennsylvania. Jay needs tips for fueling before and during the race. We talked a little bit about this, but Coach Ben, what other tips do you have for Jay about fueling before and during the race?
Yeah, again, we talk about the sugars that you need during, but the before piece, again, it's so personalized. I mean, I know for myself, people always talk about, carb, pasta, bread, all this stuff, and it's important, a couple days before, not just the night before. But typically for me, it's like I like a mix of actual protein and carbs. So sushi actually is a really good fueling source for me. So what you're trying before or during really comes down to each individualized person for what you're going for, because the stuff you're eating before your body, you want your body to store that. That's going to be the initial part of your long run or any training run. That's what your body's going to use to burn first when you start. And then during is what you're adding to that to continue that fuel stream or fuel source during your workouts. So again, these long runs that you're doing, whether it's an hour or 6 miles or 2 hours and 12 miles or whatever you're running, those should be a dress rehearsal. So look at what you're doing a couple of days before. So if your long run's on Saturday, what you're eating Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, take note of that. That way, when you get out there, the first part of your run, do you feel good? Obviously, there's other components. How much you sleep, how much stress you have in your life will always, can play into that as well. But from a fueling perspective, try to get, I tend to be more straightforward. It bothers my wife because I eat the same thing all the time. But when we marathon train, those fuel sources, you want our bodies to know what we're going to do, and you obviously want to know how your body's going to react with those. So stick with the same things that you like to eat, whether it be more carb heavy, a balance of carb and protein, and then during, again, trying stuff out, whether it be a goji berry, whether it be different styles of gels. Maybe it's not gels at all. Maybe you stick purely with a liquid drink. Again, trying those out, but looking for the proper components that work best for you. And then you'll have that, hopefully that puzzle piece will be connected and you'll have a success on race day, which I think we all want.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's just so well said, Coach Ben. You just really have to try it out and figure out what works for you. There are some, if you don't know where to start, go with the prepackaged fuels for runners that already exist. That's a wonderful place to start. And it's where a lot of runners, professional and new runners, stay, because it really it works perfectly for many folks. Their bodies are able to digest, break it down. It goes into the stomach, and it can be converted into fuel pretty quickly for your training. So it's a wonderful place to stay. If you have not been able to stomach, pre-formulated fuel packages, whether they're waffles, whether they're gels or chews or whatever they are, that's when you can start to get a little creative on like, okay, am I a person who actually needs to have pretzels? Am I a person that actually needs to have half a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And that's where the creativity can come into play, because you, for some reason, are not able to digest the specific pre-formulated. But if you can, check out the pre-formulated stuff. It's powerful, it's useful, and a lot of runners have a lot of success with it. You might have to play around with when you take it, how much water you take it with. Those might be some of the factors that come into play as well. But also, as Coach Ben said, protein is super important before your run and your days leading up to it. And it's important after your run, but in the middle of the run, your body has a hard time converting protein as a fuel source. So it doesn't do a lot. So for example, you wouldn't have a big hamburger. Your body would not really know what to do with a lot of meat at that moment, which is why very simple breads and carbs always feel more popular in the days leading up to the race. All right. A couple more questions, Coach Ben. One is a shout out,
Love
and
these.
it's from Elizabeth Marks. And she says, great to see you guys. So glad to be running New York City this year. We are too. We're so excited to see how it goes for you. And then we have a question from Dennis. I'm feeling strong, exclamation point. How long should long runs be at this point of the training? And the answer, which is that unsatisfactory answer, is it depends. I feel like right next to always listen to your body is like this, it depends. And it does depend because it really depends. Coach and I are laughing because we wish we could say, well, Dennis, it is exactly 16 miles for you right now. It really depends. Runners are going to have a full range right now. I've been looking over plans and they really can be across the board. For some folks, 8 miles is the long run. For some folks of this, it's starting to be a 14-mile long run, right? It really depends. So for example, in our coaching lab community, we take into account how long people are running, what their training looked like, and a bunch of other individual factors before we say, all right, here's your Saturday or Sunday long run. And across the board, it is varied. So there's really no right or wrong answer. It is what works for your training at this moment. Folks aren't into the high miles at this point, just to put it clearly. Dennis also has this question, which I think is a beautiful counterpart, which is how many 20-mile long runs are recommended? All coaches have sort of hot takes on this. So I'm interested to hear your hot take on how many 20-mile long runs are recommended, Coach Ben, and then I'll give you my hot take.
Wow, this is a tough question. No, there is no magic number on 20-mile runs. I know for some people, it's a mental hurdle that they think they have to get through to that magic 2 ... number when they do their long runs. In reality, it's really not about the distance, about the time. So getting yourself out there and just getting your runs in is going to be key. If that happens to be like, if you're doing a 3 to 3.5 hour run and you get to 20, 22 miles, so be it. If it doesn't get you to that point, that's fine too, because your body will get to a certain point in training where 3 to 3.5 hours, you're actually in a negative return where you're actually, the recovery time from that run afterward is going to be longer than it actually took to do the run, which actually will impact the rest of your training. So is there a magic number? No, it should really be looking at how long you're on your feet. Try to stick within that 3:15, maybe on the outside 3.5 hour range for your long runs. And you'll get there. I mean, there are some people I know that they get 22, 23 within that time frame, but it's really about trying to stick within a time frame where you're not on your feet for so long that you are actually having to need more recovery the week after that will impact your training in the long run. That's my hot take. I'm going to pass the baton because we're in a relay race today here with Annick. So I'm going to, this way? I got the right direction. Cool. Pass the baton to Coach Annick for her hot take. So.
Oh, it's bad form. I'm going to work on my form. Yeah, no, I mean, exactly that, right? It is, typically, for folks who are first-time marathoners, typically, about a month out in your training, you'll see this big long run, right? It's the one that people are like, oh no, that's the long run. And it can be, as Coach Ben said, it can be 16 miles. It can go up to about 22 miles. There is a point where too long is just too long. And so you really want to be thinking, actively during your long runs. There is that point of no return where it ceases to be valuable for you physiologically, and it actually starts to cost you something. So if you ever find yourself on a long run, let's say it's 17 miles, and you get to 15 miles and you are just pooped, Coach Annick telling you right now, drop those 2 miles. Those are called junk miles. They have no value and they can actually be damaging. So if you are dragging your body for 2 miles, you're doing that, like the shuffle of like the painful shuffle, your body is depleted on energy and you're really, fatigued and dizzy, please cut those miles. The 15-mile will be wonderful. It is exactly what your body needed. That extra 2 miles are damaging miles. We call them junk miles because they're actually junk at that point. And they don't need to happen. And so what happens is that as we're getting ready for marathon training, especially with new marathoners, they're thinking 26 miles. That is a challenge, like no doubt. That is a very real number. It's a very anxiety producing challenge just to get through the 26.2 miles. But the reality is you don't have to run the 26.2 to be ready for race day. And if you do run 26.2, the time, as you said, Coach Ben, you'd have to recover from it. It's detrimental to your training. And so you have to build confidence, even if you don't go anywhere over 20 miles. You still have to know on race day, with the New York City crowds, with the support, with your excitement, you will get across the finish line with the 26.2. Your body will carry you. So if you don't make it over 20, please don't worry about it. Most folks have one big run towards the end of their training, and then give themselves some time to recover from that to get ready for race day. But there's not like 20 miles, 23, 25, 26, like doesn't keep going up. There's usually a big one about a month out, and then you actually start reducing volume so you can actually recover from it. But the mileage thing is one of those interesting things about marathon training that causes a lot of anxiety. Am I doing the right amount? And so for runners, you have to determine what's that sweet spot where too much is just too much, and avoid junk miles. I hate junk miles.
They're junk for a reason, right? Is that why they're called junk miles, or junk for a reason?
Just junk. If you also find yourself running around, as I have, a parking lot because you need to see your watch flip to a whole different mile, that's a junk mile too. I could write a whole expose on junk miles as a coach. I mean, like, your friend wants you to go longer, but your body's like telling you, no, that's junk mileage. Anyway, the whole point is to really try and avoid those moments of junk mileage and just get really good quality work in and not have to like do anything that fatigues you. Coach Ben, I think we're going to take one more question here to wrap up, unless any folks want to do some shout outs or questions. And the question is, I ran 8 miles on Sunday, but I had to stop a lot. I think this has become a habit with me. Should I slow down and try and stay steady and not stop every mile or two? So I love this question. This is an amazing question. What are your feelings on this?
Yeah, there's a couple of things at play here that I'm curious to know about. Again, your long run pace should be comfortable. I mean, should be able to maintain that at a comfortable effort. Talk through it. So, my first recommendation would be: are you able to, when you first off your runs, we're always going to feel good in those first 2 miles. I don't care what the distance of the run is. The first 2 miles, you feel like $1,000,000. Bring it back. The rule of thumb we always say, if you're going slow, go slower. So this first couple miles, really dial it back. Really kind of just ease into the run, like you're just getting moving. If you're going for, like, let's say that your race pace is going to be a 10-minute per mile, you should be close to 11 minutes per mile on your long run. You shouldn't be down running or training at race pace for your marathon. So you should be up, a minute slower. And then if you find yourself starting, maybe you may even a minute and a half slower than what you're looking for race pace as you work into your long run pace. So if you find yourself having to slow down or walk within your run, first thing I would check out and make sure that I'm not starting off too fast. Back off those early miles, slow it down, downshift, hit the reset button a little bit, just kind of ease into it. You're going to be there for a while. Just, okay, we're going to be here. Let's just kind of get it rolling. Let the groove get in. Just kind of find a nice little rhythm. Go with that. See if you can kind of continue that. If you find yourself getting fatigued during your run, see if you can back it off. If you have to stop and walk, that's fine. But I think my first recommendation would be look at the first part of your run to see what those paces at. It should be slower than again, you don't want to. People think for marathon pace I have to have my long runs at pace. It's actually not the case. They should be 45 seconds a minute slower than your marathon pace. Maybe a little bit slower than that if you find that you're fatiguing, especially if it's hot and humid outside, if the conditions aren't very good wherever you're training. So other factors at play, but that would be my first place to look. Coach Annick, what are some other ideas or concepts or things that runners should look at in this case?
Yeah, super smart, Coach Ben. I love that. Right, you have to pull back the pace, and if you pull back the pace, and now you've got a nice controlled pace. We call it sometimes conversational pace because you could actually hold the conversation if someone were next to you. If you're still in the conversational pace zone and you're finding that you need to walk, by all means, walk. Right, like. This idea that you just have to keep going in fatigue until you get injured, that is not how actually good running works. You definitely walk for a few minutes. If you find that you're walking too much and maybe it feels like it's becoming a mental thing, like, I'm sort of mentally attached to the idea of walking, you might put a watch on it and you might say, all right, so I've gone 2 miles and I am going to now walk. And then I'm going to go 2 more miles and now I'm going to walk for a minute. So if you put little 1-minute walk breaks in between 2-mile segments, all that does is allow your body to reset, recover for a minute, and go back into the next 2-mile segment. So small walk breaks are fantastic. Walk running is a really popular marathon training method, and you can actually go quite quickly in a marathon walk run. So if anybody tells you that they don't like the walk run, you send them to Coach Annick and Coach Ben, and we'll tell them that's just not true. It's a great way to cover distance, and we've both used it. I was a professional runner in another life. I used the walk run all the time in training. If something was not feeling great, it just gave me a moment to reset and get back into the training instead of just dragging through it. So big fan of the walk run.
Great.
Coach Ben, we have I think we sort of talked about it already, but, typically we conclude our coaching chats with a little injury segment where we just talk a little bit about listening to your body. I think we've talked a lot about listening to your body today. So, I just think it's a great place to end on. It's a great place to reiterate how important it is to listen to your body, not your friend's body, not the Olympian you're about to see run the marathon, not their body, your body, and know that your training is meant for you. And you only need to do enough to be prepared. You don't have to try and run yourself into the ground. That's detrimental to your health and your training. So really for the next, we're 14 weeks out, for the next 14 weeks out, try and find that sweet spot where your runs on certain days might be a little bit challenging, but you can still recover. And so you get a lot of good work in, but you're still recovering. You never want to feel broken down. That is not a thing that you can sustain for 14 weeks. So if you're feeling a little broken down right now, give yourself some recovery and get back into training and just pull back on volume and intensity. And if you're feeling like it's all too easy, pick up an easy run or two and challenge yourself a little bit more. But it's all about finding that balance, even for our marathoners who've been doing it for years. Everyone in this year, in 2021, 50th running of the TCS New York City Marathon, everyone is going to have to figure out what works for them this year. So, Coach Ben, any final parting advice, guidance, words of wisdom?
I think you actually touched on it. I got goosebumps when you said the New York City crowds. And we say listen to your body, but man, there is going to be something special about November 7th. Not just because we're having a marathon this year, but having run the marathon several times and being out there on course to know what that feels like. There's that feeling, that sense of community, that roar. Fort Greene, people who've done it, you kind of know it narrows off a little bit. First Avenue, Central Park South, definitely the final bit of the marathon. Those are the things that keep that in your mind. That the crowds will be there. They're going to be there that day. They're going to be cheering you on for the best run of that you can possibly bring that day. But as Annick said, listen to your body between now and then. Be kind to yourself. Really take a moment and listen to what's going on, and just take a step back. Sometimes hitting the reset button's okay. An extra rest day, that's okay. Coach Roberto always says it's better to get to the start line 1 mile undertrained than 1 mile overtrained, or 10 miles undertrained, 10 over. I just understand that it's okay. You don't have to hit the number on the training plan. If it says you got to run 40 miles this week, if you run 38, that's okay. You don't have to run 40, 45 miles this week. Listen to your body, be kind to yourself. You're going to get there. We're all going to get to the start line. You're going to be prepared for the race you've trained for. I love that. Someone used that with me a few years ago, and I loved it. You're going to be at the start line, prepared to run the race that you've trained for. That's all you can ask of yourself when you get there. Keep that in mind. The mantras that Coach Annick talked about, get a couple in there. Listen to your body's one. I'm actually going to get it tattooed right here, so the next time I come on, you may actually see it here. I think it's a great one to go with, and let the groove get in. It'll be over here, but we'll have it. But I'm all excited, and we got 14 weeks to go. I can't wait. Bring it. There we go.
Here we go. We're now we need to calm down, Coach Ben. We're way too excited. 14 weeks out. We're like super jazzed right now. We're like 14 weeks out. We gotta go. Oh man, I got hyped. I gotta get my emotional neutral on. Okay, I'm gonna go practice emotional neutral after this chat. But runners, thank you so much for joining us. New York Road Runners Coaching Chat. We love talking to you all. We're so jazzed that you all came to join us with your great questions from all over the world. Good luck with your training. Good luck with 14 weeks to go this week, 13 weeks to go next week. You got this, and we will catch up with you soon.